Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me where and what time you're watching? Thanks. I need to write this down. Maybe someone will believe me. Maybe someone can help. Or maybe, if I disappear, at least there'll be a record of what happened. My name's Michael Brennan. I'm 42. Until a few months ago, I had a pretty normal life in Charleston, West Virginia. I worked in IT for one of those big tech firms downtown. Decent pay, decent hours. I had a shoebox apartment, nothing fancy, and a grumpy orange cat named Pixel. It wasn't exciting, but it was mine. Stable. Then, I found some files I wasn't supposed to see. I won't bore you with the technical jargon, just know it was bad. Real bad. They were siphoning off user data in ways that could seriously mess people up. Identities, bank info, whole digital lives, gone. I couldn't sit on it. So, like an idiot, I blew the whistle. Within a week, I was out on my ass. Not just fired, blacklisted. Emails unanswered, interviews cancelled last minute, my name suddenly radioactive. Word travels fast in the tech world. My savings bled out within a month, and I was 3 weeks behind on rent. Even sold my gaming rig. I was scraping by, scouring Craigslist for anything that could keep the lights on. That's when I saw the ad. Night receptionist needed Whispering Pines Motel, Fayetteville WV 50 charged R, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. No experience needed. Immediate start, too. Good to be true. Absolutely. But I was broke and desperate. I called. A voice answered, raspy, like gravel being ground underfoot. Yeah? Hi, I'm calling about the night receptionist job. Come in tonight, 11. No resume. Click. The drive to Fayetteville was about an hour, sky turning purple as the sun dipped below the trees. I pulled up to Whispering Pines and immediately felt off. It was one of those beat-up roadside motels you only see in B-movies. 2 levels of crumbling rooms wrapped around a cracked parking lot. The neon sign buzzed and blinked, half the letters dead, so it just read, Whisper. Pines OLI parked next to a rusted-out station wagon and stepped into the front office. A bell above the door gave a weak jingle. The place reeked. Stale cigarettes, pine-scented air freshener, and something sour underneath it all. Behind the desk sat an old man, eyes buried in a newspaper. Deep lines carved into his face like someone had etched them in with a knife. Help you? He muttered without looking up. Yeah, Michael Brennan. I called about the job. He folded the paper slow, like it physically hurt. Then those pale blue eyes locked on me. You sure you want it? I mean, yeah. That's why I'm here. A long pause. Then, all right. You start tonight. 11 to 7. 50 an hour, cash. Any questions? I blinked. Wait, don't. You wanna, interview me? You showed up. That's the interview, he said with a shrug. Job ain't for everyone. I hesitated. So, what do I actually do? Check in guests, keep an eye out, and follow the rules. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded sheet of yellowing paper. Memorize these. Don't write them down. Don't talk about them. Break one. You're done. Got it? My hand trembled as I took the paper. Got it. He gave me a sharp nod. See you at 11. I walked out in a daze, clutching the sheet like it might burn through my fingers. Once inside my car, I unfolded it. Rules for night shift at Whispering Pines Motel. At 11:15 p.m., turn off the neon sign. Turn it back on at 6:45 a.m. Not a minute earlier or later. If you hear knocking from inside the ice machine, ignore it. Do not open it between 2 Sauv and 4 hours a.m. Room 237 is always vacant. If anyone asks, say it's under renovation. If you see lights in 237, do not investigate. The office phone will ring at 3:33 a.m. Answer it, but do not speak. Listen for exactly 66 seconds, then hang up. If a guest checks in and gives the name John Smith, Give them room 113, no matter what. Do not look at their face. The vending machine may dispense non-food items. If this happens, dispose of the item immediately. Do not touch it with bare hands. At 5:55 a.m., lock yourself in the supply closet for 5 minutes. Do not exit early, no matter what you hear. I stared at the list, heart pounding. It had to be a joke, a twisted hazing ritual for new hires. But when I remembered the way that old man looked at me, dead serious, like he'd seen things, my stomach turned. I glanced at the clock. 4:45 p.m. 15 minutes to decide if I was going to walk into that motel and take the strangest job of my life. Pixel's face flashed in my mind, the stack of red bills on my kitchen counter, the smug smile on my ex-manager's face the day he walked me out with security. I put the car in park, and I waited, picked up the receiver. I didn't say a word. Static hissed through the line, soft at first. Then came the whispers, layered, overlapping, some too faint to understand, others clear enough to make out fragments. Don't trust the man in the mirror. It's not the same night every night. Room 237 isn't empty. My grip tightened on the phone. I fought the urge to speak, to ask questions, to respond. I just listened. 1 minute, that was all. At exactly 66 seconds, the line went dead. I exhaled sharply, only then realizing I'd been holding my breath. I set the phone down like it might bite me, then wiped my palm on my jeans. It came away slick with sweat. The motel was dead silent again. I sat there for a while, staring at nothing, listening to the buzz of the broken light above the desk and the distant whir of the vending machine. My nerves were shredded, but I still had hours left on shift. At 3:47 a.m., the ice machine started knocking again. I didn't move. I kept my eyes straight ahead, focused on the peeling wallpaper across from me. This place, whatever it was, wasn't a motel. Not really. It was something else, a trap, a test, I didn't know. But I did know one thing. The rules worked. I could still hear the thumping, now frantic again, like fists pounding against a locked door. I bit down hard on the inside of my cheek to stay grounded. The taste of blood helped. So did Pixel, thinking of his little orange face back home, probably curled up on the couch, confused about why I wasn't there to fill his bowl. The thumping stopped again, finally. I didn't dare move. At 4:01 a.m., the silence returned. I glanced at the ice machine. Through the office window, nothing moved. I forced myself to stand. My legs were shaky, like I'd run a marathon. I made a quick circuit of the office just to be sure. Everything looked the same, except for that damn computer. The sticky smear on the keyboard hadn't dried. It still glistened under the dim light, and I knew what it was. No mistaking that. Color. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to know more than I already did. Instead, I sat back down and waited. At 5:55 a.m. on the dot, I locked myself in the supply closet. It smelled like bleach and old paper towels. I shut the door and clicked the deadbolt. 1 minute passed, then 2, then scraping. Something dragged along the outside of the door, slow, methodical, like claws on wood. Then came the voice, high, feminine, trembling. "Michael, let me in, please. It's cold out here." My stomach dropped. I didn't respond, didn't breathe. "I know you're in there," it said, louder now. "Don't leave me out here alone." It started sobbing, the kind of sobbing that racks your whole body, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I shut my eyes and pressed my back against the door. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But it knew my name. The sobbing continued for what felt like forever, then stopped. Just gone. I waited. At 6 a.m., the noises were completely gone. The silence was thick. I counted out the last seconds, 5 minutes exactly. At 6 a.m. sharp, I unlocked the door. The hallway outside was empty. No claw marks, No blood, no crying woman, just cheap tile floors and the weak light filtering through the grimy window. I went straight to the front desk. My hands shook as I flipped the switch on the neon sign. It buzzed to life. Whispering Pines Motel, or what was left of the letters. The parking lot glowed in flickering pink. The shift was over. Somehow I'd made it through night one. Considered, not going back, who could blame me? But the memory of the old man's face, calm like he'd seen this all before, and that message, "You're remembering," kept clawing at the edges of my mind. There were things I didn't understand, things I needed to. I pulled into the parking lot at 10:55 p.m. Same cracked neon glow, same eerie quiet. The shadows around room 237 seemed to watch me this time. The old man was behind the desk when I walked in. He gave a slow nod, no smile, no words, just slid a battered key across the counter. "You're back," he said, like he already knew I would be. "Guess I'm a glutton for punishment," I muttered, trying to sound braver than I felt. He didn't laugh, just stood, bones creaking like old wood, and grabbed his coat. "Try not to die," he said casually, then walked out the door. And just like that, I was alone again. I settled behind the desk, keeping my eyes on the clock. The rules were still with me, etched into my brain like scars. At 11:15, I went outside and flipped the switch. The neon died with a buzz. As the lights blinked out, I felt that same strange heaviness settle over the place, like reality itself was holding its breath. Back in the office, I sat in silence. It wasn't long before the phone rang again, 3:33 a.m., dead on. My hand hovered over the receiver. "You're remembering." This time, I picked it up with more purpose. The static started again, harsher than before. Then the voice returned, same one as last night. Too close, too knowing. "Michael," it whispered. "It's time to stop pretending." I said nothing. My fingers dug into the edge of the desk. "You think you found Whispering Pines," the voice hissed. "You think this is some accident. You came back here. You always come back." A sharp, wet gasp echoed through the line, like someone struggling to breathe. "You forgot what you did." But we didn't. The line cut out. Dropped the phone like it burned me. I didn't go to the bathroom this time. I didn't want to see that mirror again. Instead, I paced the office like a caged animal, trying to breathe, trying to think. What the hell was I remembering? The knock on the door made me freeze. I checked the clock. 4:17 a.m. A man stood outside the office window, unmoving. He wore a tan coat, dusty and too thin for the cold. His face was in shadow. He didn't knock again. Instead, he held up a photograph, pressed it to the glass. It was me, younger, standing in front of a building I didn't recognize, arms around, a woman whose face was scratched out. My head spun. I stumbled backward. The man turned and walked toward room 237. I nearly ran outside to stop him. "Don't go near 237. But I caught myself just in time. I watched, frozen, as he passed the room. The door opened for him, slowly, soundlessly. He stepped inside. The lights snapped on behind the curtain. I shut the blinds and locked the office door. At 5:30 a.m., the vending machine clunked again. My heart jumped into my throat. I crept over, eyes darting to the shadows. Inside the tray was a piece of jewelry, a bracelet, old and silver, with tiny charms. One of them was a cat. Another was the letter P. My hands trembled as I remembered a photo on my fridge at home. Pixel curled on a couch next to a woman's arm. She was wearing this bracelet. I didn't think. I grabbed a paper bag from the desk and slid the bracelet inside with tongs from the kitchenette. The paper browned around the object almost immediately, and I ran to the back and shoved the whole thing into a rusty locker, slamming the door shut. Don't think about it. At 5:55, I locked myself in the closet again. This time there was no delay. The sad moment. The lock clicked. Something began dragging across the floor outside. Not walking, dragging, like someone pulling themselves along with broken limbs. It whispered under the door, "Come back to room 237. The voice wasn't angry, it was pleading. "Michael, you forgot me." Tears welled in my eyes. I didn't know why. I pressed my back to the wall, clutching the old supply bucket like it could protect me. The voice kept pleading. Sometimes it changed. Older, younger, male, female, familiar, always familiar. "You left us. You left me," I screamed silently into my hands. And then it stopped. At 6 a.m. sharp, I stepped out into an empty hallway. I stumbled to the office, turned the neon sign back on, and collapsed into the chair behind the desk. The old man arrived. Minutes later, he looked at me for a long moment, like he was seeing something behind my eyes. "Still think it's a job?" he asked. I didn't answer. He started to walk out, then paused. "Next time, you should go to room 237. I didn't move, didn't speak. But deep down, something in me already knew. I would. I'd thought about not going back. I really had. The idea of ending up on the street, of letting Pixel down. I just couldn't do it. So there I was, 10:30 p.m., stomach twisted, in knots, heading back to Fayetteville. The old man was already there, sitting behind the counter with that same damn newspaper, like he hadn't moved an inch since last night. He barely looked up. "You're early," he grunted, eyes still on the print. I gave a stiff nod, couldn't trust my voice not to crack. He folded the paper slow, like he had all the time in the world, and finally locked eyes with me. That stare, cold, too steady, it got under your skin. "Listen, boy, you made it through one night. That's more than most." He leaned forward a little. "But it gets worse. You sure you want to stay?" I swallowed hard. I need the money," I mumbled. He shook his head, like he'd heard it all before. "Money ain't worth your soul, kid. But it's your call." He stood up, pulling on a threadbare coat that smelled like old smoke and pine cleaner. At the door, he paused. "Oh, and one more thing. There's a new rule tonight. Check the drawer." And with that, he was gone. I waited till the low rumble of his car disappeared into the trees before I moved. The desk drawer creaked open slow. One slip of paper sat inside. Rule number 8. If you see a little girl in a white dress, do not let her in, no matter what she says, no matter what she does. Do not open the door. Well, that was just peachy. The night started quiet, same as the last. I flipped the vacancy sign off at 11:15, settled in behind the desk with some old office coffee, and tried not to flinch every time the building creaked. Around 1 a.m., a big rig pulled into the lot. The man who stepped out looked road-worn and bone-tired. Mid-60s maybe, grizzled, beard, eyes like river stones. "Evening," he rasped as he walked in. "Got a room?" I nodded and grabbed a key off the rack. "Just you tonight?" He grunted. As I slid the ledger toward him, I noticed his hands, slick with something dark, oily, grease maybe, but off. It shimmered weird under the fluorescence like it was alive. I guess I stared too long because he yanked his hands back, stuffing them into his jacket. "Had some car trouble," he muttered, eyes fixed on the counter. Didn't ask. Just handed him the key to room 109 and let him go. As he passed, a smell hit me, sharp, chemical, with a strange sweetness underneath. Not BO, not motor oil, something else. It made my gut clench. The moment he was gone, I found myself scrubbing my hands in the staff sink like I'd touched poison. "Get a grip," I muttered at my reflection. "He's just a guy, just another guest." The next couple hours passed slow. The 3:33 a.m. call came again. Whispers this time, like two people arguing, just out of range. I didn't pick up. Didn't even glance at room 237, though I swore. I saw flickers of light beneath the door. Then, at exactly 4:17 a.m., it happened. I was flipping through some crusty old Reader's Digest when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. The magazine slipped from my hands. Another tap, louder this time. I turned, every nerve screaming. There she was, standing outside the office door, a little girl, white dress, braided hair, clutching a teddy bear so worn its stuffing showed through. The seams. She looked real, too real, but her eyes, Jesus, those eyes didn't belong on a child's face. "Please," she said, voice muffled through the glass. "Please let me in. I'm scared. I'm lost." I gripped the arms of my chair, fingers going white. The rule, R8, pounded in my skull. "I'm sorry," I called out, throat dry. I can't open the door. It's the rules." Her face crumpled, lip trembling. Tears welled up. "But it's cold. There's something out here. Something bad. Please, mister. Help me." Everything in me screamed to open that door. What kind of heartless bastard leaves a kid outside in the dark? But then I remembered the old man's words. "Money ain't worth your soul, kid." "I'm sorry," I choked out, feeling like the lowest kind of scum. "I can't. But I can call someone, all right? I can call the pole." Her expression shifted. Just like that. No more tears. No more trembling. Something else looked back at me. Her face twisted, eyes burning with hate, and her voice. God. Her voice was layered with others. Men, women, old, dead. "You'll regret this, Michael Brennan," she hissed. "You can't hide from what you've done. We'll make you remember. We'll make you pay." And then she was gone. 1 second she was pressed against the glass, eyes boring into mine. And the next, gone. Just gone. Vanished into thin air. I sat there for what felt like hours, hands trembling in my lap, mind spiraling. Make me remember. What the hell had she meant by that? What was I supposed to remember? The questions coiled around my brain like smoke, making it hard to breathe, harder to think. I don't even remember turning the vacancy sign back on. Don't remember the old man returning, or how I ended up back in my car, driving home, through the pale smear of morning light. All I know is I was back in the parking lot of my apartment complex when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again, 2 down, 5 to go. The past always catches up, Michael. I stared at the screen, a cold sweat crawling down my neck. My thumb hovered a second before I deleted the message with shaking fingers. Pixel met me at the door, meowing like I hadn't just come, back from the edge of hell. The normalcy of it, my cluttered little apartment, the smell of stale coffee, morning sun stretching across the floor. It all felt fake, like I'd walked into someone else's life. I poured some kibble into her bowl. That crunch of dry food hitting plastic snapped something in me, because all at once the dizziness came. Hard, I grabbed the counter, squeezed my eyes shut. Images. A blinding white room. The sharp sting of antiseptic. A man in a lab coat leaning over me, his voice muffled but cold. Suppression successful. Memory locked. I gasped, stumbling back, eyes flying open. What the hell was that? A dream? Stress? Sleep deprivation? But I knew, deep down, it wasn't a dream. I slid down to the kitchen floor, breathing hard. Pixel nuzzled against my leg, purring like she could soothe it all away. My fingers moved through her fur without thinking, trying to tether myself to something real. But it was clear now. This wasn't just a creepy job at a haunted motel. Whispering. Pines was tied to me. Somehow. To my past. To something that had been erased. And if I wanted answers, I had to go back. God help me. I had to go back. Night 3. I spent most of the day holed up with my laptop trying to dig up anything about Whispering Pines or the town itself. Fayetteville had next to nothing. Some half-dead message boards, vague talk about bad vibes on the edge of town. No real history, No newspaper clippings, no missing persons reports that matched what I was feeling. I tried searching my own name, old yearbooks, class lists. Nothing rang any bells. Just that one awful flash in my kitchen, like a crack in a dam I couldn't break open. By sundown, the dread had curled back into my gut, but this time, there was something else too. Anticipation. I needed to know, needed to see. I got to the motel early, hoping the old man would be there. Maybe I could get a straight answer out of him, but the office was empty, silent as a grave. Only one thing had changed, a new note in the drawer. Rule No. 9. At exactly 1:23 a.m., go to the vending machine and press B5 twice, then C3 once. Take whatever comes out and place it under the pillow in the back room. Do not look at it. I read it 3 times, my skin prickling more with each pass. What the hell was this? A scavenger hunt from hell? Some sadistic ritual? The first couple hours of the shift dragged by. No guests, not a single car. In the lot, just silence, heavy, suffocating silence, like the building itself was waiting. At 1:22 a.m., I stood in front of the vending machine, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. Tick. 1:23, B5, B5, C3. The machine whirred to life, but instead of the usual clunk, there was a soft whoosh, like air being released. Something landed in the tray. I kept my eyes fixed on the wall. Reached down. My fingers closed around something cold, metallic. The surface was smooth, but carved, etched, symbols maybe. Writing. I didn't look. I wouldn't look. I rushed to the back room, slipped it under the pillow on the cot, and pulled my hands away like it might burn me. The moment it touched the mattress, I heard it. A whisper. Soft, too faint to catch the words, but it brushed against the inside of my skull like cobwebs. I ran, back to the front, shut the office door hard enough to rattle the glass. At 3:33, the phone rang. Right on cue, but this time, no whispers, no footsteps, a soft click. Then the mechanical whir of a film projector and a man's voice, flat and clinical. Subject MB continues to resist memory retrieval. Suppression remains stable but shows signs of erosion. Suppression holding. Recommend increasing dosage. Proceed with more aggressive reconditioning techniques. Click. The line went dead. I just sat there, frozen, the receiver still pressed. To my ear, mind racing to catch up with what I'd just heard. Subject MB. That was me. Michael Brennan. They were talking about me. Memory suppression, reconditioning. Jesus, it sounded like something out of a dystopian sci-fi novel. Like I was some lab rat in an underground experiment. And yet, the flashes, the gaps, the feeling I was missing something critical. This wasn't fiction. Not anymore. I was so lost in thought I almost didn't hear the sound of footsteps outside. Boots, slow and heavy, crunching gravel. I looked up, just in time to see someone walk past the office window. It was him, the guest from the night before, the one with the stained hands. Grease, oil, whatever the hell that stuff was. He was heading straight for room 237. I knew the rules. Knew I should stay put, keep my damn nose out of it. But something cracked in me. Curiosity, desperation, maybe both. I had to know. I slipped out of the office, keeping my steps light, sticking to the shadows. The man reached the door and pulled something from his coat pocket. A key, but not like the motel keys. This was different, long, mechanical, almost like a precision tool. He slid it into the lock, and I heard a sequence of soft, complex clicks like tumblers falling in slow motion. The door creaked open, and a wave of warm, golden light poured out. I inched closer, peeking around the frame. My breath caught. It wasn't a motel room, not even close. The space beyond was massive, impossibly big, like it bent reality itself. It looked like a high-tech lab. Walls lined with humming machines and monitors. Wires snaking across the floor, some pulsing faintly like veins. And in the center of the room, under a spotlight, was a chair. No, a throne. Metal, tubes, harnesses, and strapped to it was me. I stumbled back, heart slamming into my ribs. No, 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 that couldn't be. I was here, outside. But I was also there. I stared, mind unraveling, when the man turned, his eyes locked on mine, his face twisted into something between rage and panic. He lunged. I ran. Didn't stop until I was back in the office. Door slammed and locked behind me. My chest heaved like I'd run miles. What the hell did I just see? Was I losing my mind? The rest of the shift passed in a blur. I did what the rules said. Opened the supply closet at 5:55. Flipped the sign back to open at 6:45. But it felt mechanical. Like someone else was pulling the strings, and I was just the puppet. As I was leaving, the old man was suddenly there, out of nowhere, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. "You saw something you shouldn't have," he said, his voice a gravel whisper. His eyes darted toward room 237. "Be careful, boy. The walls between worlds are thin here, and some doors." He looked me dead in the eye. "Once opened, they don't close." I didn't say a word, couldn't. Just nodded, slipped past him, and drove home with hands clenched white on the wheel. I pulled into the lot of my apartment building, still shaken, mind spinning in tight circles. And that's when I saw it, an envelope taped to my front door. No name, just sitting there, waiting. I tore it open with numb fingers. Inside, a single Polaroid. It showed me, strapped to that throne in room 237, eyes wide, terrified. On the back, in red ink, smeared and jagged. "The experiment isn't over, Michael. It's just beginning." My knees gave out. I slid to the floor, photo clenched in my shaking hands. What the hell was happening to me? And more importantly, how the fuck was I going to get out?